You know, if you've got kids in the room, as I warned you earlier, and I'll warn you again, or you are upset by this kind of discussion, then do yourself a favor and turn your radio off. Okay? With that qualification made, back to Ed Dames. Ed, I'm warning everybody, and maybe over-warning them on purpose this morning, because this is pretty seriously bad news you're giving us.
I'm patently aware of that. I know that people are scared, and as a matter of fact, that was sort of the doom review, and that's what we have on our palette in terms of what we did to outline what's coming, so that people can be prepared, or shrug it off. Up to individuals. I am hanging up the Dr. Doom hat. I mentioned that on the last show. We've got 2 other projects that have nothing to do with these kinds of outlooks at all, and I am not going to get involved in them anymore.
But how do you ignore, Ed, no matter what project you may be on to now, how do you ignore your own knowledge of what's coming in terms of making any project you might have academic?
It's just a matter of choice. There's only 2 big projects that we have.
Starman, I know about.
Starman is there, and that's our biggest and our most important. But we've gone on to locate Amelia Earhart's Lockheed Electra wreckage.
Oh yeah, tell everybody about that. This is so much lighter.
It is.
You have located the wreckage.
We've located the wreckage. Well, actually, we've got the wreckage within a 2-kilometer circle in Micronesia, and I could tell you a number of things about that. I'll have a national press release, but before SciTech has this press release, we'll let your listeners know where this location is.
What are your plans? Are you SciTech, Ed Dames, and your vice president going to the actual location where this wreckage is, or how are you going to handle it?
Well, let me give you some background first. We chose this project because it was not doom and gloom.
Right.
It was something that's fun.
Right.
And we think it might be the last fun project we'll get to do before things come apart at the seams globally. And I hope we're not overcome by events before we bring this to completion. The other reason we're doing it is because it's ground truth. When it's been 61 years since Amelia Earhart has crashed, 1937, disappeared, America's favorite missing person, and no other agency or person has been able to find the wreckage.
I've seen documentaries that suggest that she was on a spy mission, that she was shot down.
Oh, it goes on and on, Art. There's an abundance of conspiracy theories.
Oh, yeah, you betcha.
But in fact, no one knows what really happened, but we do. And we're going to...
So you not only know where the wreckage is, you know why she came out of the sky.
For many years, I had the impression, for one reason or another, I guess it's because so many people talked about it, that she had landed somewhere and became stranded on an island or an atoll.
Right.
But in fact, it looks like she died in the wreck. Not in the wreck, but I'll say for the first time now that we have the wreckage in the water. It is not on land.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm. And in fact,
that makes sense, actually. I mean, if she went down, the odds of managing to get down in an emergency on land as you're crossing the Pacific, particularly that area, are slim and none of hitting land.
There was a storm. She got caught in bad weather. There's much more to this, but I'll try to make it short.
I don't want you to give anything away here you shouldn't.
No, I won't. Not until the proper time, of course, and I'll tell you what the proper time will be in a moment. There was a storm, and she did survive. She tried to beach her aircraft at a certain point on land. I won't mention which land. It's in Micronesia, big area, and she survived the crash,
right?
The ditching, but she drowned. That was interesting as far as I was concerned, because for many years, I thought that her remains would. We finished up the wreckage portion of the project so rapidly that we had additional resources left to look for her remains. And that's when we discovered that she drowned very close to her aircraft.
All right. Do you believe that her wreckage can be found today?
Oh, absolutely. That's what we're going out to do.
It was a relatively light plane, wasn't it?
No, it was not. It was a Lockheed Electra 10E. It was a two-engine. It was a large aircraft, and for those days, and it was not a light plane. No.
Okay. So if it hit the ocean floor, it would likely more or less stay where it went down?
The engine would, but not the rest of the air. It depends. If for instance, she had crashed at sea, deep sea, open ocean, then the entire aircraft, of course, when it sank, would go down intact. They're in very deep water, and would remain intact. But in fact, she crashed near an atoll, and very close to the atoll.
So it's not as deep as you might imagine. It's not Howard Hughes type submersible craft deep.
Well, it looks like the heavier, the front end, the engines, at least one engine, and part of the nose of the aircraft is still hung up on the reef. But because of hurricanes and tsunamis over the years, we think that parts of the aircraft have fallen off over this particular reef into the deep. Now, there's technology available once we pinpoint the wreckage like we've done, to without any problem, no matter how deep the wreckage is, to photograph it and to retrieve it. It isn't a problem like it used to be decades ago. But in this case, we know that at least the engine is probably in about no deeper than 60 feet of water. So in late October, November, I and my chief operating officer and perhaps one or two others will pull a reconnaissance mission. The purpose of that mission is to take our technical remote viewing data, our sketches and our data, to go to the site. This is what we used to do in the military, so it's the same old thing, whether it was a war in Libya with an aircraft down in the water, or the civilianization of technical remote viewing, going after Amelia Earhart.
Right.
We go there, we do some diving, we get some photography. We're going to try not to touch the wreckage, because aircraft historians and archaeologists can derive a great deal of data by the orientation of the wreckage, and things that will eliminate us from having to remote view every aspect of the crash itself. They can put the crash together by looking at the orientation of the wreckage. So we'll get the photography, and then the next mission there will be a retrieval or a salvage mission.
That's going to cost you or somebody a lot of money.
Well, we don't invest our money in the stock market, so we have to do something with it, and it goes to Project Starman and Amelia Earhart. That's what SciTech does with its money.
Ed, hold on a moment. Are you willing to take a few calls from the audience?
I am.
You are. All right. Hold on then. We're going to get to some of you in the audience for Ed Dames here in a moment. All right, here we go. Let's go back now to Ed Dames. I just want to intersperse a few calls, if I can, Ed, to keep the audience as part of this. I'm sure they have a lot of questions this morning. A lot of Americans are really nervous right now, Ed. And can you blame them?
No.
No. First-time caller line, you're on the air with Major Ed Dames and Art Bell. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi there.
Hi. I'm Gwen.
Gwen?
Calling from Atlanta.
Atlanta, Georgia. Hi, Gwen.
First-time caller.
Glad to have you.
But I've been listening to you for some time now, and you keep me up all night.
Thanks.
I want to know if the bond market and everything is going to crash.
Well, he covered that, and it's such a terrible, dire prediction that I will let him...
What I want to know is this going to, affect the banks and insurance companies and all that kind of stuff also?
All right. A very good question, actually. The answer on the bonds is that Ed said earlier. You go ahead and say it, Ed.
Well, essentially, yes. America will end up defaulting on interest payments on the bonds, and then paying back the bonds themselves.
Which essentially, when you understand what the bonds are, would mean the end of the U.S. government as we know it, which you then said is correct.
Yes, we will not be able to pay our rent anymore.
All right. Now, she asked about the banks and other financial institutions. It's a good question.
I'm not certain. I'm not an economist, so I don't know how that. I have no remote viewing data other than what I've talked to you about in a general sense. So I don't know the particulars of how all these chain reactions would work.